we are gonna try this again, going live. Today I am in the shed where I normally record my videos. Actually, surprisingly as that may seem, you can see my green screen over here. You're getting a more behind-the-scenes look at where it all happens. Today I wanted to just jump on here briefly and talk about my Coast Guard story and mostly because I've gotten a lot of questions recently that have to do with concerns for what life will be like after boot camp, kind of in their early years of their career. And obviously, I can't tell anybody what like the end all be all of what they are going to expect because everybody's going to have a different experience. So the best I can do is just kind of share my experience. So I'm going to do that. Bear with me. It's very cold. We've had some storm activity lately. So I'm going to just kind of go through this as best as I can. And if anybody happens to be watching and has questions, I'll answer them if I can see them. I'm going live from my phone, so I don't know if I'll even be able to see live chat. But if worst case scenario, I'll answer them in the comments later. But anyway, just sharing my Coast Guard story. When I was I think it was junior or senior in high school. Don't remember which year, but I was looking into the Navy, and I actually came very close to enlisting with the Navy. Was uh, I was coaxed by a recruiter. They gave me all these promises, $40,000 signing bonus, and all this great stuff. Everything. This was shortly after 9/11, also, and it was one of those things. It just seemed too good to be true, too fast. So I kind of held off on that, and then I ended up doing a year of college, and during that year, I still had in my mind that I maybe wanted to do the military. And my father had actually talked to me a lot about the Coast Guard, even when I was growing up. And I really didn't have the ambition or drive when I was in high school to perform well enough to qualify for the Coast Guard Academy. But that was always something that sounded like something like that would be cool to do. But I'm also colorblind, so um, I don't really that was never really a road in my destiny. But I still had interest in the Coast Guard generally, and so during my first year of college, I started looking into it. And at the time, I was helping to take care of my grandfather who was sick and dying. And because of that and other obligations, I didn't feel like active duty was right for me, but I looked into the reserves. So finding out about the reserves was really cool for me. It was really interesting. I didn't even know that that was a thing. And to to learn that I can, you know, give back to my country and do something fulfilling and not completely upend my normal life was cool to find out. And again, this was shortly after 9/11, so I had that feeling like I wanted to at least get involved. So um, after my first year of college, I enlisted during that summer, and I did the RK. I believe it was the RK split program, which is where you go to boot camp one summer, and then you do like a year of school, and then you go to A school. So it's a guaranteed A school program for reserves. So I did that, and then again I was in college at the time, so graduated boot camp, did a year of college, and then did MSDA school the next summer. But during that first year, I was a drilling reservist. So I went to my duty station, and I basically was like a break-in in the MST world. So doing it's pollution responder now, but at the time it was called pollution investigator. So it was PI qual you're trying to get. So got a lot of sign-offs for that. You can't actually have any quals as an MST until you graduate MSTA school. So I basically was just shadowing, and just learning the ropes of the MST world. But again, this is all as a reservist. So I'm also going to college. I'm taking care of my grandparents. I'm kind of just, I'm I'm a 19-year-old kid just kind of finding my way in the world, and also at the time they had tuition assistance available. So I was going to junior college initially, and that completely covered the tuition for junior college. So that was really nice. And it just gave me a broader perspective on the world, and a little bit of extra change in my pocket while I was going to school. So that was kind of the initial motivation, was just to kind of give back a little bit, to get involved, to have some financial security to get through college. And I really didn't know at the time, am I going to do 6 years and get out? Am I going to go for a career? In those early years, I didn't feel like I was going to probably go for a career, because it is it is a big change to, you know military life. At the beginning, it's humbling. You're the low man or woman on the totem pole, and everybody is sir or chief or MST1 or whatever, but everybody is hovering leagues above you. So it's very humbling, and it can be a big kind of a shock to the system at the outset. But as I went through my years of service and learning learning more and more about the MST world, um, you realize how quickly things shift. And before you know it, even as an E4, you're mentoring the new people in your unit. And that's one thing that's really cool about the Coast Guard, is that the development and training and the turnaround for that happens very quickly. So you are given a lot of responsibility, fairly quickly. So anyway, one year turned into another. Next thing you know, you're at 6 years in. When you hit 6 years, you can basically decide, because for the reserve enlistment, it's an 8 year commitment, but it's 6 years as a drilling reservist, and then 2 years IRR, which is inactive reserve, which means you're still owned by the government. You can be called up for things, but you're not actively drilling. You're not getting paid. Um, but you can still accrue points, which can count for retirement. That's kind of another topic for another video. But anyway, as one year turned into another, I'm 6 years in. I'm like, well, I got 2 more years. I may as well keep drilling. Keep getting paid while I'm here. So I did. Now you hit 8 years, and she's like, well, I'm almost halfway to retirement, so can I keep going for this whole weekend a month, 2 weeks a year gig? I think so. So I did. And, I got married, I had kids, I had my own civilian life and job, and you just kind of develop a routine. And that is one thing about reserves that I don't know that a lot of people outside of the reserves really get. It's that, we're not just people that like go to sleep for 28 days and then come out and do 2 days of work and then go back to sleep. We've got a life, and those outside experiences are valuable, and they oftentimes, especially on the reserve side, you have people who, I've had people work for me on the reserve side who are 22, 23 years old, but they just came out of the maritime, the Cal Maritime Academy. I mean, some of these people know more about. They're smarter than me in a lot of ways. So you have to keep that in mind. You have to be aware of the value that people bring, the intangibles that exist in the world outside of the Coast Guard, and that's something else that I've learned about leadership is so much about managing personalities more than anything else. Just managing people and the different ways that people respond to criticism, or the different ways that people handle stress, and kind of how that presents itself and how that affects the morale of the people around them. These are all things that I've picked up over the years, and I found that I've been able to kind of develop a rhythm and a routine that works for me and my family, that I can do my service to my country, and kind of feel good about it, and I can still maintain a life outside of that. So anyway, that brings us to those first 8 years. And when I hit 8 years, I decided, I'm going to reenlist. I'm going to stick with it. I've made it this far, and that's kind of where we were at. So by the time I hit 8 years, I had been deployed to Deepwater Horizon. That was, at the time, for people that are old enough to have been around to see that BP oil spill was by far the biggest environmental disaster ever since, and still even till now, that anybody had seen. And from an MST standpoint, it was unprecedented, and it was incredible being a part of that response, because it really leveled the playing field. Because one of the things that, one of the challenges as an MST reservist, not doing this every day, it's just the nature of repetition is not there. And so there's other things, like I mentioned before. There's the life that you lead outside of all that, the experience and the wisdom and the knowledge that you gain. Those do have value, and it works both ways. The experience and knowledge that I've gained in the Coast Guard also has empowered me to be more effective in my civilian life as well. But in Deepwater Horizon, nobody knew what the hell they were doing, because no one had ever seen anything like this before. You're getting the equivalent of a major oil spill every hour. I mean, and it was completely uncontained. And so that was really a shock to the system, but it was very valuable to be a part of it. And if I could impart some wisdom there, I would just say, if you do decide to go, whether it's reserve or active duty, and if you decide to go MST, keep your PQS packets. Whether you're going for division supervisor, whether you're going for PR or FOSCR, container prevention, whatever. Keep your packets with you, because you'd be amazed at how much the day-to-day operational life of an MST, whether it's just during active duty at a unit or in a deployment like Deepwater Horizon, uh, will cover a lot of those sign-offs. And I didn't take enough advantage of that, as I should have. Later when I was working on certain quals, I was like, man, I did all this. I did all this at Deepwater, but I didn't get credit for it. So just make sure that you are just being really cognizant of whatever your goals are, and always be working on that, and juggle things. Do multiple things at once, because that's the best way to make your time efficient. So anyway, that is kind of where I found myself, and then finished with a deep water deployment, and kind of continued on my way. Kept progressing, and I am now at almost 20 years, and I am deciding if I'm going to stick around or not, and I'm not 100% sure yet. I have a little bit of time to decide. Um, it's it's definitely, it's one of those things. It's like working for any retirement, where each year you continue, your retirement is getting almost exponentially better. So it starts to get harder to leave. But yeah, I've been, I've enjoyed my time, and I'm definitely glad I did it. The reserves has been just a great way to broaden my horizons, my experience, and it's a great icebreaker, if nothing else, conversation starter. People are interested when they hear about it. People don't know that the Coast Guard is even military, and then people don't even know that the reserves is a thing. So, um, and what else do I want to say? I really just wanted to kind of share that, just my story, my reason for joining and my reason for staying in. I think that there's a lot of really good questions that people have been asking me, and they're really valid and important questions. And I don't have the answers to all of those questions because it's it's very dependent on so many variables, and some of those are in your control and some of those are not. I do want to say one thing. Maybe this is a good way to round this video out. There was a comment I got a couple weeks ago, and I haven't responded to it yet. And it's not because I'm ignoring it or that I don't think it has value. It does. It was a very good comment. It was a very thought provoking comment, and maybe I'll make an actual video specifically replying to it and addressing it. But the gist of the comment was related to the length of boot camp. So I did a video about the 8 weeks, and is that long enough for boot camp, and why is it, why isn't it? People had commented that it's too short, it's just the right amount, whatever. So I kind of gave my 2 cents on it. Somebody commented that the reason it's so short is because the training is really poor, and that they are they're very big on reverting you. They're just like, well, we'll just revert people. If the training's not long enough and the people aren't doing well enough, we'll just revert them. We'll just make them do more weeks. And this was a long comment. I mean, it was several paragraphs, so I'm paraphrasing here, but it was an important comment. I'm not going to deny that there's some truth to that. I think that if you go back and read the comment, it's a very personal experience comment, which kind of highlights my point about how I can't tell you like with a sure, with a crystal ball what your experience at boot camp is going to be. It's going to be dependent on your CCs. There's they're humans too. Like they're not perfect people. They're I'm sure there's bad company commanders just like there's great company commanders. So this person might have had bad company commanders, but some of the things that they described are valid concerns. He or she talked about the idea of getting kind of hosed because you're trying to look out for other people, and so therefore you fall behind or you get punished. You get punished because you do things the right way, and other people cut corners or cheat, and or they just stay, they're a wallflower, they stay hidden in the background. And that's valid. That probably does happen. I mean, yeah, people can be shitty. It's true. Um, and people end up deciding that the Coast Guard's not right for them, maybe because of that. And that might have been what happened with this person. So I wanted to address that comment in a general sense, and I'll probably go back and look at it, and maybe I will make a video more specifically. But I wanted to say that, I'm not here to like paint the Coast Guard with like some magical, imagery. Like I'm not trying to say that the Coast Guard is this amazing thing that you're just gonna love it and it's super fulfilling all the time. I mean, I would be doing a disservice to people if I told them that, because I can't say that. I can't promise anything like that. I don't know what things people are looking for or what their expectation is and what their standard is for what constitutes a good experience or a good career. I can't say that. I can say that for me, I've really enjoyed it. I thought boot camp was, it wasn't fun at the time, but it was good looking back at it. It was a good experience, and I'm glad I did it. I think that in this particular person's comment, I think that that's probably is what happened. I think that they probably got screwed over because they tried to do the right thing, and that totally happens in real life. I mean, anybody watching this, if you've been around long enough, you know that absolutely can happen. You can do things the right way, and then the person that cuts corners gets ahead because they cut corners and they get away with it. And yeah, that happens. And I mean, without getting too preachy about it, it's just a matter of like, what do you value? Is it more important for you to get ahead and maybe get more money and maybe get more of a position of power and leadership than to do what you know is right in your heart? Maybe that is, and I'm not making a judgment about that. Who am I? I'm not anybody to say that you're wrong to do that, but it does happen. So yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's an indictment on people more than an indictment on the program. I think that people are very flawed and very prone to corruption and and shittiness. I mean, what else can you put it? Um, but again, I think that that's an important comment that that person made, and I did want to address it because it's important to me that I'm not portraying myself as like, oh my God, the Coast Guard is amazing and you should join. You should definitely join because of this. It's not. My real motivation for starting this is just to try to give people information that I think is helpful. And most of the time, that it just ends up entailing it with me responding to a comment, a question, and answering that to the best of my abilities. Because what better way to give people information than for them to tell you what information they need. So anyway, I don't know if anybody's left any. I can't. Maybe if I push this um, live chat, it says chat hidden. Okay. All right. I don't know how to change that setting, but I will. If there are comments or questions in the chat, I'll answer them after the video. Anyway, that's kind of just very generally speaking my Coast Guard journey. I could definitely go on for a long time if I got into specifics. I think maybe I'll do a video where I talk more in depth about my boot camp experience. I know I've been making a lot of videos about specific things that you might go through or experience, but also just talking about my experience. But I think this is good for right now. I think what I would like to do, if I get more viewers and people have an interest in it, is I would like to do like weekly Q&As where if I can figure out how to see questions live, then I can answer them live. But anyway, I think this is long enough for now. I hope that everybody's having a good and safe weekend, and I will talk to everybody soon.